So welcome back to session 2, the bigger picture. Now that we've looked at and assessed our current financial viability and potential sustainability, it is good to remember that accounting is the reporting of transactions that have already taken place. And in relation to the bigger picture of organisational and viability and sustainability, it's really the same as studying the droppings of a horse, rather than assessing the environment, mission, conditions and journey of the entire horse and cart. This bigger picture is even more important for non-for-profits, where our successes cannot be judged on the money in our bank. In 2009, the International Development Research Centre and the Canada and Inter-American Development Bank interviewed over 600 NGOs across North America and Canada to gain a better understanding in what else makes an organisation succeed, and sometimes fail. The result is a questionnaire that assesses the viability and sustainability across 4 key areas: environment, capacity, performance and motivation. And that's what we're going to look at next. So let's look at the international model of assessing viability and sustainability. And the slide coming up now shows those 4 key areas just mentioned, plus the key discussion points under each of those. So if we consider environment, we are talking about Australia's administration, political environment, overall social and cultural environment, such as our acceptance for not-for-profit organisations and their position within the community, our economic environment, and also the stakeholder environment. If we consider our environmental situation at this current period, there are changes happening, particularly under our stakeholder, our economic, and our political areas. We are very, very lucky in Australia that socially and culturally, not-for-profit organisations and community sector organisations are very well received within our communities, and there is a strong understanding of the positive value that they contribute. The second area that we have a look at is organisational capacity. And capacity really talks about our ability to be able to deliver the services in accordance with our mission. Strategic leadership, structure, human resources, financial management, infrastructure, program management, process management, and inter-organisational linkages and networking are an essential part of our capacity. And it is often the case that we're very good at some of these areas, but not necessarily very good as the areas as a whole. And the model talks that if we do want to be a strong and sustainable organisation, we need to have an equal strength amongst all of these areas, not just relying on the areas that we've always been good at and ignoring those areas that don't really matter so much to us. The third area of assessment is our organisational performance. And in a minute we're going to have a look at the financial viability under this. But it also talks about how effective are we as an organisation in delivering our services, and how efficient are we as an organisation to deliver those same services. We have long had issues with both effectiveness and efficiency because many of our services deal one-to-one with people, and people in general are not necessarily very efficient at all. We can be very effective, but efficiency is often a trouble area for us. But we should remember that there are other areas that we can improve our efficiencies, such as investment into IT and infrastructure around our offices, better communications, and faster and more efficient reporting structures within and through our organisations, both up to our board, but also from our frontline staff into management, and from our management into frontline staff. The final area is organisational motivation. And organisational motivation is essential for times of change Organisations that are successfully go through large change processes are those that have the organisational motivation in place, not only at a senior level, but through every single member of their staff. It talks and looks at the history of our organisation, the mission of our organisation, the internal culture of those who work within our organisation, the incentives that we have in place for our staff to stay with us, grow with us, and experience more and become stronger within our organisations, as well as our brand. Our brand is going to fast become a very, very important part of our organisational motivation, because if we don't know who we are, it's going to be very, very difficult to explain to our community or potential users of our services who we are and what we do. So if we take just one area and go back and reinforce the area of financial viability and sustainability through this model, I think you might be in for an interesting surprise. The entire model has over 400 questions, and while we did say that financial viability is essential in regards to our organisation in the here and now, when it gets absorbed into the bigger picture, it accounts for only 18 questions out of all over 400. Let's have a look at those questions now. Is the organisation able to generate revenues to respond to the needs of its stakeholders? Do we bring in enough income to be able to not only meet our operational expenses, but meet our mission and the expectations of our key stakeholders, from our members all the way through to government funding and government grants? Is the organisation creating a surplus? Is there continued and sustained support for existing funding sources? And that is one of the greatest questions of challenges we have at this time, particularly for those organisations in the disability sector and in aged care that are undergoing fundamental funding changes. Does the organisation consistently obtain new funding sources? One of the most important questions that is asked within the financial viability sector is, does the organisation depend on a single source of funding? And this is just solely because it exposes us more greatly if we only have one source of funding. If tomorrow that source of funding ceases, then we are greatly exposed and must come up with a replacement to be able to continue our organisation. For those organisations who have multiple sources of funding, the risks are lower because we can also depend on alternate sources of funding to maintain operations of the organisations in all other areas. So if you are an organisation that does have a single source of funding, and if you go back to having a look at your burn rate, they would be the organisations that I would be suggesting that you would be wanting to look at more toward a 6-month cash flow rather than 3 months. And if you are a single source organisation and you have less than 3 months, it must be an imperative strategy to bring that burn rate or cash position up to an area where you are level for up to 3 months of operations before requiring any further change within the structure or expenses of your operations. The other questions: can the organisation sustain itself within a competitive environment? Are assets greater than liabilities? And does the organisation keep a reasonable surplus of money to use during difficult times? Again, just captures that difference between viability and sustainability. Finally, does the organisation monitor its finances on a regular basis? And do we monitor capital assets and depreciation on a regular basis? Are other important questions to be ensuring are captured by our financial managers. One of the greatest areas around financial assets or our capital assets over the last 12 to 18 months has been the greatly fluctuating prices that we see within the property market, particularly in southeast Queensland. So I would be asking your financial managers to ensure that you've got an accurate and up-to-date assessment of all of your property values. And if you haven't been revalued in the last 18 months to 3 years, to definitely have a look at that asset value. Now let's look at another section of the model that proved very popular in the workshop sessions that I conducted around Queensland. If we can all turn to page 11 and have a look at 2.2 structure, niche management. If we now work through how the questions work together, it's important to note that the structure of all of the statements have been made as questions on purpose by the creators of the document, but CSA has actually then added in a risk rating and priority and some SWOT notes to actually make better use of the assessments. So let's now have a look at how the questionnaire itself works, and we'll start by looking at question 2.2.2. Are its strengths matched with the niche selected? So this question looks at our organisation, our mission and our vision and our current structure, and does this match the niche market that we are selecting to operate in? If the answer is yes, we may suggest then that our risk rating is low, so it may be a question that is not relevant to our organisation at this current point in time. We may also choose, on discussion with our board and senior management, to say, well, yes, we are currently matched, but we have plans to change in the future, and our current structure will not match those future niches and that future changes. So therefore, our risk rating is actually a medium risk. We will not only need to ensure that our current structure is stable, but also look and plan for future changes to our structure as we move forward and change our programs under management. If we then decide that the rating is medium, we then move to our priority column, where we look at, is this something we need to do in the immediate term, so within the next 3 to 6 months, in the short term, within the next 6 to 12 months, or is it going to be something that is going to be a long-term priority where we need to continuously monitor but cannot actually apply changes to our organisation until after significant new programs have come on board. From this, we can then make notes as to our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities or threats that this question poses to our organisation. Let's have a look at another question, and we go down the page to 2.2.6. Do potential clients or customers know, or can they find out about programs and services that represent our niche? Many organisations are now starting to really develop some of the communication programs they have in regards to online, such as their website, brochures, or becoming more and more involved in different trade shows and fairs that are out there and talking to people and potential users of the services. And this is becoming very important. People feel that advertising and marketing needs to be highly sophisticated, but in all honesty, it just needs to tell a story. But most importantly, it needs to tell your story. So over the next 12 to 18 months, if you are doing nothing else but learning, developing and establishing what is the story you want to tell, because the media and mediums as to how that story is told can always come after. If you don't know what you are going to say about why you are so good, that's where you need to start. Finally, we can also have a look at question 2.2.8. So does the organisation have sufficient financial support to keep its niche? And I am bringing financial questions back in on purpose because it does just go to support session 1 and the importance of our financial position in regards to our viability and sustainability. So even while we are considering a bigger picture, we still need to ensure that we have financial capacity there to be able to move through times of change. So, how can we use this tool for our own assessment? This assessment tool is an excellent follow-up to the NDS Organisational Toolkit, and it provides us with additional questions and discussion points for the management and board or committee. I'm now going to challenge you by doing this yourself, and if we go to slide 20 of the presentation, it gives you a quick exercise that you can choose to do either at a management level, a board level, or amongst any group of staff within your organisation. So let's have a look at how this one works. In small groups, I want you to start by identifying your priorities under one of the sections of the International Assessment Tool. So as you go through the topics in the contents page on page 3, you will see that there are some key areas around strategy, structure, HR, finance, organisational programs, organisational performance, processes, and motivation. So choose one of the areas that you believe your organisation is fundamentally weak at, or is the weakest or slowest point in regards to your future strategies for sustainability. Go to that component, review and discuss each of the stimulus questions under this component with the members of your group, remembering that not every single question within that questionnaire will be relevant at this point in time to your organisation. So we ask the question, we rate the risk, we look at the priority, and then we make some points in regards to our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities or threats around this question. The challenge comes from the outcomes of this session. Can you create or can you work on developing 5 immediate strategies that your organisation can employ to strengthen your organisational position in this area? This is the challenge that we put towards workshops all over the state, and we found some fascinating responses and some really fantastic ideas were shared amongst the room. If I can encourage you to do the same throughout your organisation and divvy up the questionnaire or sections of the questionnaire to different areas of your organisation and come back in and share your outcomes or your strategies, then this is a great opportunity for your organisation to be discussing the bigger picture in regards to your sustainability, as well as improving the internal culture and understanding of why your organisation may have to change. So you've worked your way through the organisational toolkit from NDS. You've come up with some areas of weakness, and now you've worked your way through a range of questions that really have a look at the bigger picture beyond this section of just financial viability and sustainability. So what next becomes the question. What are some of the strategies that we can employ to determine the long-term change of our organisation? Repositioning for long-term change is the same for any organisation, be you not-for-profit or a commercial organisation, large or small. There really are only 4 big picture strategies that we can employ. The first is to improve our margins. This means greater surpluses from each one of our programs, and this strategy is probably the hardest to employ from a not-for-profit organisation. But please don't think that it is impossible. A very, very small strategy or very, very small change in the way one organisation operates has resulted in some fantastic results for them. The organisation as a senior citizens group has a community bus that they take everybody out on HAC-funded outings on a regular basis, but there always seemed to be an extra 4 or 5 seats left over. Through a small local marketing campaign and a closed Facebook group, they now actually send out alerts if there's going to be any spare seats on the buses to those self-funded retirees that live within their community who can join on at a full fare. Now, this has greatly improved the margins on each one of those activities, but more importantly as well, has also improved the networking between the self-funded retirees and other retired peoples within the community. And it is creating a broad range of informal networks that is actually benefiting not only the individuals but the organisation, as more self-funded retirees are getting to know the importance of the senior citizens group, what they do, their mission and vision, and what are the outcomes for those other senior citizens within the community. Another area is to improve our volume. Volume is going to quickly become very important, and we did discuss volume quite thoroughly in the area of costing, pricing and budgeting. Where our costs are high and we need to continue with a program, one of the best ways to be able to cover those costs is to increase our volume. Subsequently, it may be that future activities have to be limited to a minimum number of people before they can start. Now, while this may seem a change in the direction of our organisations, we do also have to remember that this is a management in regards to our financial viability and being able to put on the organisation's programs as a whole, rather than just an individual activity that may or may not be performing as good as it could be. From a service provision opportunities, we have 2 options, and that is to go broad or to stay niche. So a services strategy is for organisations who are going to broaden or expand their number and range of services. And we are seeing this happen with many organisations branching from aged care into disability care or vice versa, particularly in the home care arena. Our 4th option, and one that is becoming increasingly popular for smaller organisations, is to stick to a market niche strategy. And if you like, this is like being the specialist butcher in a Woolworths supermarket store. What it does is it allows people to have a broad choice through other services, but delivers the quality product to those that matter most directly to their service clients. Many organisations are moving down the path of market niche strategies and not only providing the service that they're granted or funded for, but also looking at user pay services that complement or broaden that experience. So now we've come to the end of session 2. In session 1, we looked at our financial viability and sustainability. In session 2, we've had a look at how we can look at a bigger picture to assess our viability and sustainability, particularly focusing on those areas of weakness, making ourselves the strongest organisation we possibly can be for future sustainability. Now, on the final slide, we can tie all of that together with a really quick and easy checklist. Step 1. Using our current financial statements, we're going to complete the financial reporting template to assess your current financial position. After this, we should be asking, can we continue to operate for at least 3 months? If not, what options do we have to improve our cash position over the next 12 months? And that strategy should be a big focus if we have not made that 3-month cutoff. Step 2. We look at our assessment model and we discuss and identify the areas of greatest weakness of our organisation. And don't forget, the NDS Organisational Toolkit will also help you identify these areas. What strategies can we come up with to strengthen our position of each one of these key areas? Step 3 is now tying it all together. What we need to do is create a schedule to workshop these issues and use the questions within the tool to help drive discussions and identify actions and opportunities. And most importantly, we need to remember that not every question will be relevant for our organisation. If it does not apply or the risk is low, move on to the next question. I hope you've enjoyed this session on viability and sustainability. Again, all of the tools that you need to take yourself and your organisations through this are on the Community Door website. And if at any time you would like further help or have any further questions, please don't hesitate to get in contact with me, Linda Hayes from CSA. My details are in the beginning of the workbook and also the worksheet. Or you can contact me at any time through Community Door links or NDS. Have a great day.